Don't get me started. When it comes to math, just follow your heart. They're going to go home. They can't go flying. Would you get in trouble? All right, first question is from Case2417. Hey, Steve, I'm a frequent flyer and have never been in this situation, but if you initiate a go-around for no actual reason and you're just doing it for fun, would you get in trouble? Yeah, probably you would. I don't know any pilots that would initiate a go-around just for fun. Go-arounds they're not dangerous. It's just we don't do them very often. And you'd have to kind of explain or justify why you did a go-around. There are a lot of good reasons to do a go-around. For fun, that's not one of them. And so I wouldn't want to try to have to explain that to the company at all, because you're wasting gas and time and a lot of other things. But yeah, that's an interesting question. I don't know anybody would do it for fun. All right, the next one is from Danielle Lunudi. Dear Captain Steve, I was wondering if sometime you could do a video where you walk your viewers through a takeoff and or landing video while showing an actual cockpit video view. There's literally hundreds of these on YouTube, but none of them actually explain what the captain and first officer are doing in the video. Yeah, we're looking at doing something like that. I do actually want to go rent simulator time. So there's a little expense involved in that. And then you got to get the timing all right. And then you have to bring the camera crew in and all that stuff. But I always love to explain to you what's going on in the cockpit. Most of my videos, I'm saying, okay, what are the pilots doing right now? What are they thinking about? What are the things they're up against? It would be great to go in the simulator and show you that, like explain, hey, here's just a typical takeoff roll. What are all of the things involved in a takeoff roll? It's kind of like a golf swing, right? Where there's like 42 different things going on at the same time. There's a whole bunch of stuff I have to get ready to go. Then when I am rolling, there's one thing after another. We could explain all that, and hang in there. We'll get that for you sometime down the road, and I'll announce it before we do. All right, this is from John. All right, it's kind of a long question, but let me get to the point of the question. As a mechanic, I know how much reading and or technical data is involved. How much of what you learn in elementary, middle, or high school plays into your everyday job as a pilot, like reading and math? The answer to that is a fair amount. I wrote a book called Captain Steeve's 13 Rules for Life, and it's available in the description down below. One of the chapters in my book is called, When It Comes to Math, Just Follow Your Heart. Okay? So it's a little tongue-in-cheek, that chapter, on the idea that you got to know your strengths and your weaknesses. I'm not the strongest math guy on the planet. I know enough math to be a pilot. I wasn't a big fan of algebra. I was more of a fan of arithmetic, and I explain all that in the book. Arithmetic is mostly what you use as a pilot, adding, subtracting, dividing numbers on kind of on the fly. I'm pretty good at that. I've gotten good at that over the years. What letters and numbers have to do with each other, like algebraic equations, I'm still kind of scratching my head over that. You don't use as much of that as a pilot. So when it comes back to school, in order to get to a place where you can get qualified to become a pilot and then get hired, and that's the key, you want to have good grades. When young kids ask me, or their parents ask me, what does my child have to do to become a pilot? I say two things: get good grades in school. That's number one. Number two, be good to your mom. All right, always obey your mom. Why is that important? Because pilots are rule keepers. And if you can't keep rules at home, you're not going to keep rules in the airplane, and you're not going to make a very good pilot. So get good grades. That opens up the whole world to you, not only just aviation, but it doesn't exclude aviation as well. Great question. All right, at Chatty's YouTube, this is from the Home Alone video I did a couple of weeks ago. How do the attendants not know how many are on the plane? That's a great question. How do they not know a family is missing a member? In this age of computer and technology, can't they look this up easily? And how do they not know it's a full plane? Okay, they actually do. They do a head count, a physical head count. So you'll see just before the airplane pushes back off the gate, a flight attendant will be walking down the aisle, and they'll be going, and they're doing, like this. They're counting fingers and toes. They're counting everybody on the airplane. That's a physical head count. The agent has come up with a computerized head count. So we want to make sure that those two things match. Now, here's the catch. If somebody didn't get on the airplane, that person won't get counted in the back in the physical head count, and they didn't get counted on the computer head count either. They just simply were a no-show. And so there's lots of people that, and you're at the gate at the last minute. If you've ever flown standby, you're sitting and waiting for somebody not to show up. And about 10 minutes before they close the door, they're calling, this person, that person, this person. Last call, we're about to close the door. We're going to give your seat away. And then they'll give the seats away to standbys. At that point, they close out the flight. The final head count is in. Then they go and count on the airplane. Final head count. Those two numbers need to match. When they do, they close the door and off you go. What happened in this Home Alone situation was the family, they had split up, and they thought part of the family was going on one flight and part of it was going on the other. They didn't know if this teenager was with the one party or with the other party. Ends up he wasn't with any party. He was just kind of wandering the terminal. And when he came back to the airplane, he was like looking out the glass going, hey, everybody, wait, come back. It's me. All right. The pilots saw him. They went back to the gate. They got the door open, and he was rejoined with his family. The comments on that video were absolutely a riot. All right. Keep them coming. Matt Bianco. What movies involving an airliner is your favorite? Do you cringe watching things like Air Force One or Executive Decision with the inaccuracies? Absolutely. We've done on occasion movie reviews. We did one, Top Gun Maverick. I think I did one with Gary B. Pilot. We did Catch Me If You Can. We tried to do one on this channel with Air Force One, and it got snagged because of copyright issues, so we couldn't ever air it. But oh my word, what an excruciatingly hard movie to watch. I mean, they're just, don't get me started, right? You know exactly what I'm talking about. So Air Force One is probably, the worst airline-related movie ever created. And yeah, they're so cringy that I can't even watch them. All right. Time for the special feature now on Ask the Captain. We've been taking your video inputs and send them to the email down below. If you've got a video that you want, a video question that you want to ask, get in front of the camera, do it in the vertical format. Keep it nice and tight. Tell me who you are, ask your question, and I'll answer it. If you go on with some rambling manifesto, you're not going to get selected. Give me a nice tight question, and you might make it onto the next episode of Ask the Captain. Here we go. I've got 3, and these are my grandkids. All right, I'm just telling you, they got the front of the line. Sorry.
Hi, Captain Steve. My name's Sylvia. How do airplanes get off the ground? Fly safe.
Okay, there's Sylvia, just as cute as can be, and she wants to know how airplanes get off the ground. Well, Sylvia, it's a combination of things. Just about anything can fly if it's got enough thrust. The old F-4 Phantom is a good example of that. It's like a flying sled, the world's loudest airplane, turning fuel into thrust. But most airplanes have 2 large engines, some 3, some 4. They produce thrust to get the airplane rolling along the ground. That causes airflow over the wings. The wings then lift the airplane up into the air, and those engines continue to produce thrust to get you up to a higher altitude, and off you go to your exciting destination. Now, there's another question coming. I'll explain in more detail exactly how those wings work, but thank you, Sylvia, for that question. All right. Next one. Here we go. The next video question is from Flynn.
Hi, Captain Steve. I'm Flynn. How does the landing gear come out?
Okay, Flynn wants to know, how does the landing gear come out? Because it's kind of exciting to watch an airplane take off and the landing gear goes up and then the doors close and it's nice and smooth underneath the airplane and off they go. You wouldn't want to fly all the way to your destination with the landing gear down. They create a lot of drag that would consume a lot more fuel than normal, so you want to get that landing gear to come up. But how did the landing gear come down was Flynn's question. All right, I've got a big old handle up in the cockpit, and some airplanes it's little, but it's always got a wheel on it. Now there's 2 things in the cockpit that look like the surface that they control. One is the flap handle. It's shaped like a flap, right? And I know that. I could grab that in the dark because I can feel it. And the other is the landing gear. It's got a little tire on it, all right? It's not meant to be cute. It's meant to be able to grab in the dark. If I lose all power and I can't see anything, I can feel around for that landing gear and get the landing gear to come down. So on my old 767, it was a large handle. You had to pull it out, lower it down, and release it in. On my 777, it was a little smaller, but it was a handle that was up, and I would just release it down. When I do that, it opens up the down locks on the aircraft, and the hydraulics then push the landing gear down into position. Once they get down and they're a little over center, the down locks click into place and the landing gear is down and it's locked. I get an indication in the cockpit that all 3 of my landing gear are down and locked. I know it's safe now to land on that airplane, but it's a little handle that I have in the cockpit. It's hydraulically actuated, and Flynn, that's how it works. All right. Great question. We got one more from Oliver.
Hello, Captain Steeve. I'm Oliver, and I have a question. How do airplanes stay in the sky?
Okay, similar to Sylvia's question, how do airplanes stay in the sky? Well, it's called the Bernoulli effect, and I don't want to get too technical on you, but think of air as a molecule. And every molecule of air, when it hits the front of the wing, and the wing is designed a certain way, it's got a certain aerodynamic shape to it, it's a little rounder on the top and a little flatter on the bottom. That's kind of the technical look at it. So that little molecule, and let's say each air molecule has a little air molecule buddy, when the 2 of them hit the front of that wing, the one on the top has to go a little farther distance than the one underneath. That creates a suction effect. That creates lift, what we call lift. It's actually a suction that creates a lower pressure on the top of the wing, and the airplane then lifts itself up in the air. It's such a discrepancy, and the wing is so big that that large wing can then lift up anything else it's attached to, the fuselage of the airplane, up into the air. The horizontal stabilizer in the back works the same. It creates a little bit of lift, but mostly so to get airflow over the elevators in the airplane, so I can make my airplane go up or down accordingly, and I adjust that with my yoke up front. But it's called the Bernoulli effect. Airflow over the wing, because of the shape of the wing, causes a suction effect, and the airplane actually lifts because of the differential pressure up into the air. And it works great every single time. Awesome question, guys. I really appreciate these. Okay, let's go back to your written questions now. Frank writes, hello, Captain Steeve. Well, when you're on the right seat, FO, are you using your right hand to control the flight stick for the aircraft? And then when you're the captain in the left seat, using your left hand to control the stick? I'm right-handed and wonder how hard it would be to go from using your right hand to your left hand. That's an excellent question, actually. Now, at the airlines, you're either in the right seat or the left seat. You don't go back and forth. In the military, you did. When I was a plane commander, I would be in the left seat if it was my takeoff. If I was letting my FO have the takeoff that day and it was his leg that he or she, they'd be in the left seat, I'd be in the right seat. Most of my military career, I spent over in the right seat, not because I was a co-pilot or a first officer, I was an instructor. So once I became an instructor, then the instructor, even though you're the person in charge is signing for the airplane, you're in the right seat, training somebody to be qualified in the left seat. So I got really used to pushing up the power with my left hand and flying the airplane with my right. Same thing at the airlines. I started out in the right seat. It was a smooth transition. When I went to the left seat at the airlines, it was a little bit awkward at first, but you spend so much time in the simulator going through emergencies and so forth that pushing up power here and flying here kind of came back to me after a while. It's, as they say, it's like riding a bike. So it's no big deal, but your brain just gets trained to do right or left, back and forth. It's kind of like doing one of these, right? But it's easy to do. All right, no name, new to the channel. The question I have is, in an unfortunate situation that the passengers have to exit the plane and board another plane due to mechanical issues, does the captain and co-pilot board the other plane and proceed on with that flight? Or do they have another captain and co-pilot on the other plane? If not, what happens to the captain and co-pilot in this situation? This is an excellent question because sometimes you change planes due to a mechanical failure with the airplane. Sometimes the crew times out. There's other reasons that you might do that. If the crew times out, they're going to go home. They can't go flying. And timing out might mean that they've been there too long, but the time that they have to fly all the way from where you are to your destination, they'll be over their allowed FAA time slot for that day, so they have to go home. In that case, you'll get a whole new crew. They have to call somebody from home. They have pilots on reserve all the time. They're standing by the phone waiting to come into the airport. It's still typically going to take them about 2 to 3 hours to get to the airport. That's why there's some delays like that. I've had a lot of mechanical delays where they took an airplane out of service. I had to go to another one. And I do what you do. I would go back, I'd pull up the paperwork for that new airplane, wait for the passengers to come over, all the baggage to get loaded, all of the catering to get loaded, the airplane to get fueled. I've got a lot of work to do to get ready for that new airplane. So I'm going to go over there and get that thing ready to go so that as soon as all of those components come together, we can push back off the gate and get you going and try to get to the destination somewhere close to on time. So sometimes the crew stays with the airplane, sometimes they don't. All right, last question. Why do most cargo flights happen at night? That's an excellent question. And you're talking about FedEx and UPS most likely. Those operations take place at night because you're shipping your box or your package during the day. So you're going to go to the FedEx store during the day, you're going to drop it off. Around 6 to 7 o'clock at night, the FedEx truck shows up at the drop-off place. He loads up that truck or two, and they drive right out to the airport. Then they take it off the truck, they put it on pallets, they put it on the airplane. That airplane is going to take off typically at 10 or 11 o'clock at night. He's going to fly to Louisville, Kentucky, or they're going to fly to Memphis, Tennessee. That's FedEx's hub. Louisville is UPS. They're going to do what they call I think it's called the sort. All right. They land, they all come in, they park at the gate, they pull everything off the airplane, they sort it. It's a gigantic assembly line. It's like blocks and blocks, miles long, this thing. They're taking one box and they're all going different places. Then they get to where they're going next. They put them all back on a little mini truck. They run them back over to the airplane. They load them back on pallets, and that airplane takes off from Louisville or from Nashville off to some exciting destination. They land somewhere around 4, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. The truck picks them up and they take all the stuff, they sort it out, and they start driving to deliver it to your house. That's why they do it in the middle of the night, so that they can deliver it by the next morning. You get your package at 9 in the morning, and you're like, oh, why did it take so long to get my package? There was a lot going on the night before in Memphis and in Louisville. So that's how the sort works. You ought to look it up. It's absolutely fascinating how all that takes place. All right. Fantastic questions on this episode of Ask the Captain. I hope you enjoyed the videos. Keep the videos coming in, my friends. Give it to me vertical. Send it to the email down below. Give me your name and keep it nice and tight, and you might make it on the next episode of Ask the Captain. We answered all sorts of questions this time, from what happens when an airplane gets taken out of service, does the crew stay with it, and why do they sort cargo at night? Excellent questions. Keep those questions coming. If you want to see a similar episode with more great questions, check out one of these 2 episodes.